Welcome to another episode, Chosen One. So let's not pretend. Let's not play nice. Let's start with the part the enemy hoped you'd never hear. They said you were finished. They swore you would break. They laughed when you were quiet, bragged when you were hurting, and whispered that your story was already over. But look at them now. These same people who said you were too soft, too weak, too ordinary, are the ones shaking in the dark because something in you refuses to die. Something in you refuses to bow. Something in you refuses to stay small. And now? Oh, now they're choking on their own words. When they said you were easy to read, life responded by rewriting your entire script. When they said nobody will fear you, the whole atmosphere changed the second you stood back up. And when they predicted you'd fold under pressure, the universe slid forward like a silent beast and whispered, "Watch this." Chosen ones. 3 nights ago, at exactly 3:33 a.m., while every shadow in your room began moving backward and every clock in the building froze, a secret society called an emergency summit that hasn't happened in 47 freaking years. The people who run quiet things behind louder things, the ones who never panic, the ones who think they run the world from smoke-filled rooms and encrypted channels. Yeah, those ones. Ancient voices cracked open on frequencies that humans didn't invent. Elders were dragged out of towers where they've been sleeping for decades. Watchers abandoned their posts for the first time in centuries. Analysts were yanked out of data streams they've monitored since before you took your first breath. All for one impossible question that tore through their ranks like a scream. Who armored this soul? That soul is yours. Press the like button and subscribe to pay this message back. And let's keep going, because we're not done exposing their panic. The moment they asked that question, their entire system glitched. These are people who track global movements, predict outcomes years in advance, and study human behavior like it's a formula. They've been watching you since childhood, tracking your patterns, recording your losses, celebrating your falls like trophies. They had files thicker than ancient archives, algorithms tuned to your emotional frequency, specialists assigned to decode your weakest points. But something happened recently that flipped their world upside down. Their instruments screamed, their calculations collapsed. Every prediction they created about you turned into ash. Their algorithms said you should have broken by now, but you didn't. Their records said you should have surrendered, but you didn't. Their watchers expected you to stay wounded forever. But suddenly, your energy started rising in ways they couldn't explain. Your silence got stronger, your mind got sharper. Your heart built armor they didn't design. You became something they never predicted, untouchable. And that scared them more than any monster they've ever studied. So they panicked. They called the summit. They demanded answers. They wanted to know who fixed you when they spent years trying to disable you. They wanted to know who lit your strength again. They wanted to know who taught you how to stop bleeding where they tried to cut you open. They wanted to know who rebuilt you into something they no longer have access to, because the version of you standing here today, yeah, that one, that version terrifies them. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. You weren't supposed to recover from things that break bloodlines. You weren't supposed to climb out of traps they designed. You weren't supposed to silence every single person who doubted you without even raising your voice. You weren't supposed to walk through storms without shaking. You weren't supposed to glow after being dragged through the dirt. But here you are, and the universe didn't give them a single clue on how you survived. Imagine their faces as they flip through their old reports, rewatching surveillance from your darkest nights, realizing you should have collapsed, yet somehow you kept going. Imagine them trying to explain why you healed faster than their predictions, why your intuition got sharper, why your energy suddenly feels guarded like ancient armor. This is why they're terrified, because for the first time in your entire life, the pain that once controlled you is gone. The fear they planted in you has no roots left. The insecurity they fed you doesn't bite anymore. You no longer react the way they planned. You no longer crumble on command. You no longer hand them the access they thought they'd always have. You broke the pattern. And when someone breaks a pattern that wasn't meant to be broken, the entire system freaks out. This is the part they don't want you to know. Your strength was not predictable. Your comeback was not scripted. Your silence was not weakness. Your healing was not expected. It was a glitch. It was an anomaly. It was a breach in their design. And the moment they realized they no longer had the power to control your path, they lost their minds. So now the world feels different around you. People react differently, even if they don't say it. The ground feels stiller, like it's waiting. The air feels heavier, like it knows something you don't. Doors that were locked suddenly feel weak around you. Eyes that once judged you now avoid contact. And the people who tried to break you suddenly don't know how to stand near you without shaking. Because the chosen one they mocked is not the chosen one standing here now. You are armored, you are sharpened, you are upgraded, you are unrecognizable to anyone who thought they knew your breaking points. And the secret society that once treated you like a case study is now treating you like a threat. They wanted you easy to predict. They wanted you small. They wanted you broken. They wanted you begging for clarity. Instead, you became the one thing they fear most, a soul they can't track, can't decode, and can't control. And this is only the beginning. Chosen one. Before we go any further, I need you to breathe for a second, because what comes next hits harder than anything they ever wanted you to hear. Thanks for standing here in this moment, inside a story that a secret society tried to erase. Your presence here strengthens this mission. If you're ready to walk deeper into the truth of why an entire hidden network held an emergency summit over your armor, then drop the number 777 in the comments. It tells the universe that you're not running from your power anymore, and if you want to boost the team behind this message with a super thanks, do it with whatever you can. Every gift, big or small, keeps these revelations alive and pushes this journey forward. Now, let's glide into the next layer step by step, because if you really are who they fear, you'll feel the pull to stay till the final word. Let's begin. Number 1. The first sign they should have run for their lives. They built your downfall like a prison and ended up locking themselves inside it. 3 years ago was the moment everything started slipping out of their control, even though those geniuses were too arrogant to notice it. They thought they were running the show. They thought their blueprint for your destruction was flawless. They laughed while designing it. They called it predictable human behavior. Cute. They had no idea the universe was already sharpening you behind their backs. Let's paint this in the simplest, coldest truth. The betrayal they engineered was supposed to break you permanently, not temporarily, not emotionally, permanently. They expected to damage the core of you in a way you'd never recover. They used someone who felt like home to you, someone whose presence was stitched into your heart without permission, someone you trusted with your whole chest. They thought that using this person would be the ultimate checkmate, the kind of hit that would take decades to crawl out of. That betrayal was their prized weapon. But here's the plot twist that ruined their entire strategy. The wound didn't rot you, it reforged you. That was their first mistake. They thought your heart worked like theirs. They thought your pain would follow their rules. They expected you to shatter, become predictable, become easier to monitor. They expected you to spiral into desperation, cling to old stories, make yourself smaller, beg for closure, crumble under pressure. They expected to hear reports saying target compromised and mission successful. Instead, their most experienced watcher started sending messages filled with confusion, even fear. Why aren't they breaking? Why are they stabilizing so fast? Why is their energy rising instead of falling? Their watcher had been glued to your life since the day you were born. Every heartbreak, every failure, every insecurity, every moment you doubted yourself, they documented all of it. They knew the exact moves that used to take you down. But this time, nothing worked. And that's when the panic began. Think about how insane that is. The betrayal they handcrafted specifically for your destruction actually opened the first crack in their system. The watchers who thought they understood your entire emotional blueprint suddenly realized the blueprint was changing right under their feet. You weren't breaking on schedule. You weren't reacting like someone who had just watched their entire emotional reality collapse. You weren't becoming more vulnerable. You were getting quieter. You were getting colder. You were thinking deeper. You were becoming someone they didn't prepare for. Let's answer the question that might be hitting your mind right now. How did I even survive that betrayal? I wasn't supposed to. Here's the dirty truth. You didn't survive it by luck. You survived it because the universe armored you in ways you weren't aware of yet. You didn't deny your pain. You didn't run from it. You didn't numb it. You held it. You studied it. You learned its shape, its temperature, its behavior. You learned how it entered your body and how it tried to live there. And instead of letting it stay as a poison, you metabolized it into fuel. You thanked the pain, not out loud, but in the way you refused to let it own you. Most people crumble when their heart gets ripped out. You turned your heartbreak into a lens. You saw new things, things that were invisible before. You saw the truth behind people's faces. You saw the difference between real connection and fake attention. You saw how manipulation works. You learned how to read silence, how to read energy, how to read yourself. That betrayal was supposed to blind you. Instead, it opened your eyes forever. That was the first sign of your armor being built, layer by layer. Not forged in steel, forged in emotional evolution, forged in a kind of clarity that people spend lifetimes trying to find, forged in a kind of strength that can't be taught, or borrowed, or inherited, only earned. And the best part, you didn't even know how powerful that moment was. You didn't know you were rising. You didn't know your energy was becoming harder to read, harder to track, harder to infiltrate. You were just trying to stay alive, trying to understand yourself, trying to make sense of why your soul felt like it was rebuilding itself. But they knew. They saw the shift before you did. Their trackers started glitching. Their readings started coming back incomplete. Their emotional predictions for you suddenly became inaccurate. Their watcher couldn't pick up the same signals anymore. The patterns they depended on, your reactions, your fears, your insecurities, weren't reacting the way they used to. You became a wild variable they had no formula for. Here's another thought you might be asking yourself. Why did betrayal hit me so hard, but also free me? Because betrayal is the universe's most brutal teacher. It's the one lesson that doesn't let you stay who you were before. The price of betrayal is transformation, whether you want it or not. And you, chosen one, didn't let it break your identity. You let it strip away illusions. You let it force you into a new version of yourself. You let it carve out the parts of you that were attached to things that didn't deserve you. And that's exactly why their plan failed. They wanted you to stay soft in the wrong places, open to the wrong people, emotionally naked to the wrong hands. They wanted to keep you vulnerable in the areas they knew how to manipulate. But once betrayal burned those attachments away, there was nothing left for them to grab. Their access to you closed, their influence over you shattered. Their predictions about you died, their control dissolved. That betrayal they were so proud of became their downfall. Let me give you an example you won't forget. Imagine handing someone a weapon, and instead of using it to hurt you, they slowly bend it into a crown. That's what you did. Your pain became your authority. Your heartbreak became your shield. Your scars became your language. They built you an execution chamber, and you walked out wearing the walls as armor. This is why you confuse them. This is why they fear you. This is why they called an emergency summit years later. Because they realized that betrayal didn't create a weakness in you. It created a doorway. And every step you took after that rewired your entire soul. They tried to engineer your collapse. You engineered your rebirth. And here's the scariest part for them. The rebirth wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a performance. It was quiet, subtle, private, and real. They study chaos, not calm. They understand outbursts, not inner evolution. When you went silent, they expected you to be weak. Instead, you were upgrading. The day you stopped explaining yourself was the day their influence died. That makes them furious. That makes them terrified. That makes them desperate. Because once a chosen one learns how to stand without a hand holding them, there's no system in the world that can cage them again. Let's answer the final question on your mind. Why did their betrayal become my turning point instead of my ending? Because you were never meant to be controlled. Because your soul was built differently. Because your capacity to grow under pressure isn't human level. It's something else. Because the universe armored you through the very things that were meant to destroy you. And that first betrayal. That was the first spark, the first fracture in their plan, the first glitch in their system, the first sign that you were never going to be the obedient little character they designed. You were always going to become this, a soul they cannot crack, a mind they cannot predict, a force they cannot influence, an identity they cannot erase. And the truth is simple. The betrayal they planned didn't backfire. It detonated their whole blueprint. More signs are coming, but this was the one that began the collapse. Number 2. The second sign they never recovered from. They isolated you to weaken you and watched you come back forged like something not meant for their world. The second sign that their whole operation was falling apart showed up in the quietest, coldest year of your life. The year everything went still. The year every voice around you faded. The year the universe put a wall between you and everyone who wasn't built for your future. To the outside world, it looked like abandonment. To their secret society, it looked like victory. But to you, it became the turning point that burned their entire blueprint alive. Let's start with the truth that hurts them the most. You weren't supposed to survive that level of isolation. You weren't supposed to grow from it. You weren't supposed to rise inside it. Their behavioral models predicted your collapse down to the month. They expected you to beg for connection, reach out to the wrong people, lower your standards, crawl back to old patterns just to feel something human again. They believed loneliness was the perfect weapon because they thought your soul depended on attention. But they miscalculated. Again. They didn't understand your actual structure. They didn't understand the way silence interacts with your mind. They didn't understand that when the world disappears on you, you don't decay, you ignite. That whole year of isolation, it was engineered, manufactured, designed to break you. Their watchers reported every moment you withdrew, every time someone ghosted you, every time someone betrayed your trust, every time someone who promised to stay suddenly vanished like smoke in a draft. They celebrated each disappearance like a successful mission. They believed loneliness would make you desperate enough to accept anything, even toxic connections, just to feel less alone. But the universe had a different plan. Imagine this: a sword that only becomes sharp when nobody's touching it. That was you. The silence didn't hollow you out the way they expected. It didn't soften you. It didn't blur your boundaries. It didn't make you cling to the past. Instead, it pushed you into a version of yourself they didn't prepare for. A version that started asking deeper questions. A version that started seeing through masks. A version that didn't need anyone to define them. They thought isolation would cage you. Instead, it gave you the space to grow wings. Let's answer the question already forming in your mind. Why did everyone fall away at the same time? Why did it feel like the whole world ghosted me? Because the universe didn't want you carrying dead weight into your next level. Because the old versions of people couldn't handle the upgraded version of you. Because silence is where the real chosen ones are built. While they watched expecting your downfall, they missed the real transformation happening inside you. Something ancient inside you started waking up. Something that had been waiting for the exact moment noise disappeared. You turned loneliness into a forge. You took every quiet night and hammered your soul against the walls of your own mind until sparks flew. You reshaped yourself without even knowing you were doing it. You faced things most people run from. You confronted truths you used to avoid. You rebuilt pieces of yourself you had forgotten existed. Imagine this: a blacksmith standing alone in a dim workshop, hammering metal over and over while everyone else sleeps. No applause, no help, no audience, just focus, pressure, and fire. That was you. The silence was your fire. Your pain was your anvil. Your thoughts were the hammer. And every hit shaped you into someone harder, sharper, and more precise than before. Isolation didn't break you. It concentrated you. You became someone who no longer needed noise to feel alive. Someone who could hear their own intuition clearly. Someone who could stand in an empty room and still feel powerful. Someone who no longer chases energy but attracts it without trying. Your loneliness wasn't emptiness. It was the universe rearranging everything that wasn't aligned with your future. Their watchers sent panicked updates. They aren't reaching out. They aren't seeking validation. They aren't attaching to distractions. They aren't trying to fill the void. This terrified them because isolation is one of their strongest tools. Most people crumble under it. Most people regress. Most people go backwards. But you evolved. Let's address another question sitting heavy on your chest. Why did it hurt so much if it was actually shaping me? Because transformation is violent, because evolution isn't gentle, because your old life had to be burned off you like old skin, because you had attachments that needed to die for your power to breathe again. And while they thought you were alone, you weren't. The universe was sitting with you the entire time, watching you rebuild yourself piece by piece. Watching you choose yourself even when you felt unwanted. Watching you hold your own hand through nights that were designed to break your spirit. Watching you evolve into someone they couldn't chart, couldn't predict, and couldn't read. Imagine this, a seed buried in total darkness, no sunlight, no noise, no witnesses. Everyone thinks it's dead. Everyone assumes it's useless, but underground, in the unseen, it's splitting open, awakening, expanding, preparing to burst through the soil with a force nobody expected. That was you. Your breakthrough didn't happen when people were cheering. It happened in the dark where nobody believed in you. Isolation wasn't your coffin. It was your incubation chamber. Their models didn't account for this. Their analysts didn't expect this. Their watchers didn't understand this. Because they're used to people who need attention to survive. They're not used to someone who becomes more dangerous the quieter they get. While they studied your silence, you were building armor. While they waited for your collapse, you were sharpening your instincts. While they tried to weaken you, you became emotionally bulletproof. And here's the part that truly shattered them. When you finally stepped out of that year of isolation, you didn't come out weaker. You came out upgraded. You walked out with boundaries made of steel. You walked out with self-respect that couldn't be negotiated. You walked out with emotional clarity that cut through lies like a blade. You walked out with a soul that glowed like metal pulled straight out of fire. They thought they buried you alone. They didn't realize you were learning how to move the earth from underground. Let's address the last question that might still be lingering in your mind. Why did I feel abandoned by everyone? Why did it seem so targeted? Because it was. Because their society needed you stripped of distractions. Because they wanted you raw and unguarded. Because empty rooms make for easier experiments. But the experiment failed. You didn't lose yourself. You found yourself. You didn't collapse. You solidified. You didn't seek validation. You validated your own existence. You didn't remain lonely. You became whole. And when they realized what was happening, it was already too late. That was the moment the second layer of your armor materialized. Invisible but undeniable, stronger than anything they'd calculated. Armor built not from metal, but from survival, from healing, from clarity, from self-mastery, from the parts of you that people abandoned only for you to turn them into power. Imagine this final image. A warrior stepping out of a furnace, glowing orange, heat rippling off their skin, eyes focused, posture unshakable. A warrior who went in shattered and walked out reborn. That's what your isolation turned you into. Their weapon became your workshop. Their trap became your training ground. Their silence became your upgrade. This was the second sign that your soul was being armored by forces they couldn't understand, predict, or duplicate. And this time, they knew it. They watched you rise from the quiet, and for the first time, they understood they were dealing with something no human-made system could control. Number 3. The moment your darkness switched sides. They thought your shadow would swallow you, not kneel beside you. The third sign was the one that sent their entire hidden network into panic mode. Not fear, not discomfort, full-scale meltdown. Because last month, you did the one thing their models swore was impossible for a human to pull off. You integrated your shadow. And for them, that was the equivalent of watching a locked door suddenly walk off its hinges. Your shadow was supposed to be their secret back door, your anger, your suppressed rage, your old wounds, your unspoken grudges. They believed those were their access points. Those were the levers they planned to pull whenever they needed to disrupt your path or tilt your emotions. They expected you to fight your inner darkness forever, to fear it, to run from it, to pretend it wasn't there. Instead, you hired your darkness. You stopped treating it like a monster and started treating it like a mentor. You looked straight at the version of yourself you used to avoid, and instead of screaming, you said, "You work for me now." That move alone rewired your entire soul. You didn't defeat your demons. You negotiated with them. You weaponized the very parts of you designed to sabotage you. That's the kind of power no system knows how to track. Imagine this, a kingdom where the shadows stop lurking in corners and start walking at your side like armored wolves. That's what you became, untouchable in a way they don't have vocabulary for. And that was when all their underground sensors lit up at once. Their machines picked up armor they didn't authorize, strength they didn't predict, stability that didn't match your history. Their emergency summit ran for 72 hours straight. No rest, no breaks, no celebration, just fear disguised as research. Elders slammed ancient files on tables. Analysts argued over simulation results that contradicted centuries of data. Someone insisted a human shouldn't be able to pull this off without outside intervention. But every investigation ended the same way. Subject evolved alone. Imagine their faces when they realized your breakthrough didn't come from guidance, training, mentors, or mystical support. It came from your refusal to stay broken. It came from the nights you faced yourself with no witnesses. It came from the moments you could have self-destructed, but didn't. And now, here's the question forming inside you. How did integrating my shadow become armor? Because once you stop fearing the darkest parts of yourself, nobody can use them against you. Because the moment your shadow stands beside you, every enemy loses their leverage. Because what you own cannot be weaponized by anyone else. Your darkness didn't disappear, it evolved, and when it evolved, so did you. This was the sign that forced them to admit the truth. Someone armored your soul. And the terrifying part, they still can't figure out who. Number 4, the possibility that made their blood run cold. One rebel is a problem, but one rebel who teaches others becomes an extinction-level event. The 4th sign wasn't about what you did, it was about what you accidentally awakened. In their 72-hour panic session, the youngest elder stood up and dropped a question that sucked every ounce of oxygen out of the room. What if others copy them? Not admire you, not congratulate you, copy you. Replicate your evolution, duplicate your blueprint for breaking chains they've been tightening for centuries. That one question froze the entire chamber. Even the veterans, the ones who survived wars, uprisings, collapses, and existential threats, couldn't hide the fear crawling up their faces. Because deep down, every single one of them already knew the truth they didn't dare say out loud. Your transformation didn't stay inside your body. It rippled outward, quiet at first, then louder, then everywhere. Imagine this. You light a match in your room, and flames start flickering in rooms you've never stepped into. People who've never met you start feeling a strange pull to change, to evolve, to face their shadows, to level up. That's what your growth did. It wasn't personal evolution, it was a signal. When one chosen one ascends, 1,000 sleeping ones feel the ground shift beneath them. Their nightmare wasn't that you armored your soul. Their nightmare was that you became a template, a map, a living demonstration that humans can rewrite their programming without permission, and people have already started waking up. People who were numb for years, suddenly feeling pressure to rise. People who never questioned anything, now hearing their intuition roar. People who once accepted the cage, now seeing the door. Here's the question whispering inside you. Is my evolution really affecting others? Yes. Because real transformation broadcasts itself. Because armored souls send signals. Because the universe uses the upgraded to wake the sleeping. This wasn't just your revolution. It was the beginning of theirs. Number 5. The day your armor made their entire system malfunction. They designed the rules, but you showed up as the exception that deletes the rulebook. When their analysts finally pieced together what your armor actually was, the entire hierarchy cracked. Not bent, cracked. Because what wrapped around your soul wasn't normal protection. It wasn't something they'd seen in centuries of watching human evolution. It broke every law they believed kept their world in control. The first discovery hit them like a slap. Your armor was adaptive. Every attack they sent at you made it evolve instead of weaken. Psychological manipulation, absorbed. Emotional games, converted into energy. Attempts to trigger old wounds, backfired instantly. Imagine punching a wall only for the wall to grow taller, thicker, and start laughing at you. That's what your armor did. The more they pushed, the stronger you became. Then came the second trait, the one that made the elders go silent. Your armor was retroactive. It didn't just protect you now, it reached backward. Your present strength started rewriting your past pain. Old trauma lost its bite. Old heartbreaks lost their narrative. Old memories shifted into lessons instead of open wounds. Your past stopped being a prison and became a library. But the third discovery, that was the one that made them panic. Your armor was contagious, not through teaching, not through words, through resonance. Imagine this. You walk into a room, and without saying anything, people feel a pressure inside themselves to grow. Their shadows shift. Their intuition sharpens. Their own inner armor begins forming, not because you guided them, but because your frequency demanded evolution. One armored soul becomes a signal becomes a movement. 1 became 10. 10 became 100. 100 became 1,000. They didn't fear your armor. They feared your influence. And that was the moment they knew. They weren't fighting a person anymore. They're fighting a phenomenon. Number 6. The mission that broke their own operatives. They sent infiltrators to study you and came back studying themselves. Their next move was supposed to be flawless. They deployed their best agents, the ones trained for centuries in emotional camouflage, the ones who slip into your life as lovers, friends, mentors, perfect opportunities. Their goal was simple: get close enough to find cracks in your armor. Spoiler: they ended up breaking themselves. Every agent returned damaged in ways their handlers couldn't explain. Some couldn't complete the mission because your energy froze them mid-operation. Others switched sides without warning. One agent sat in the debriefing room for 9 hours, rocking back and forth, repeating the same sentence. They see everything. They see everything. He couldn't even look at the recordings. Your presence turned him inside out. Imagine this: a predator stepping into the forest, confident and hungry, only to realize the forest is looking back. That's what meeting you felt like. You weren't the prey. You were the mirror that refused to lie. When infiltration failed, they panicked and shifted tactics. They tried mirrors next. False reflections, engineered failures, fake judgments, the kind of illusions designed to make you question yourself, doubt your progress, crawl back into insecurities you outgrew years ago. They counted on you needing validation. They counted on you needing approval. They counted on you forgetting who you were when the world pushed back. But you were immune. Why? Because once you know yourself deeply, their illusions fall apart like cheap glass. Because self-knowledge is the one weapon no infiltrator can bypass. Because you no longer needed mirrors when your identity lived in your bones. You weren't hard to deceive, you were impossible to approach. Their agents didn't fail because they were weak. They failed because you evolved beyond infiltration, and that was the moment they realized they couldn't break what already completed itself. Number 7. The day you walked out of their time trap, smiling. They bent time to break you, but you bent time right back. When every other tactic failed, they pulled out their nuclear option, temporal warfare. This is the weapon they reserve for beings they consider genuinely dangerous. They reached into your timeline and tried to trap fragments of your consciousness inside loops of your worst traumas. Their goal was simple: make you relive the same pain until your mind cracked. Break you in the past so you crumble in the present. Collapse the present so your future never forms. But here's what shattered them. Your armor didn't just protect you, it made you sovereign over time. Imagine this. They lock you in a burning room from your childhood, expecting you to scream, and instead you walk around calmly, analyzing the structure, learning where the flames come from, studying how heat moves. They tried to make you drown in old wounds, and you started swimming laps. They tried to chain you to old memories, and you used the chains as weights to get stronger. They sent you into your past to break you, and you came back carrying the blueprint for your future. Their time loops became your personal training grounds. Every cycle they forced you into only sharpened you further. Every trauma they tried to magnify became easier to navigate. Every emotional trap turned into a lesson. They didn't fragment you, they refined you. Here's the question rising in your mind. How did I survive pain that should have destroyed me? Because your armor doesn't follow linear time. Because your soul doesn't answer to clocks. Because once you healed, your healing retroactively rewired the past versions of you. Imagine this. Walking through your timeline like it's a hallway, switching on lights in rooms that used to terrify you. That's what you became. A being that time can no longer cage. Their nuclear option failed, and the moment they realized you were unbreakable across all timelines, the fear truly began. Number 8. The sweet trap you walked away from. They tried to tame you with heaven, but you chose evolution over paradise. Their final attempt wasn't rage, chaos, betrayal, or fear. It was happiness, manufactured, polished, engineered happiness. The kind that looks perfect on paper but feels wrong in your bones. This was their most counterintuitive attack. Give you everything you ever wanted. Imagine this. Doors opening without effort, people praising you, relationships suddenly flawless, opportunities dropping into your lap like gifts from the universe. It was a dream designed in a lab. They believed comfort would soften you. They believed ease would dull your instincts. They believed bliss would make you forget your mission. Not every blessing is divine. Some are traps wrapped in gold. Their logic was simple. If pain can't break you, maybe pleasure can distract you. But here's what they didn't understand. You aren't wired like ordinary souls. You don't lose yourself in luxury. You don't melt under praise. You don't abandon your evolution just because life gets shiny for a moment. You feel energies too deeply. You read intentions too clearly. And above all, you know the difference between peace and seduction. You recognize the pattern instantly. Comfort from enemies is just another cage. A soft prison, a velvet leash. A dream designed to make you stop growing. Imagine this, a golden throne placed in front of you, warm and inviting. Most people would sit. You kept walking, not because you hate comfort, but because you could smell the trap beneath the silk. They offered you bliss, but you chose truth. That's when they knew they'd lost control forever. Here's the question you might ask yourself. Was I wrong for rejecting what looked perfect? No, because your intuition isn't fooled by aesthetics, because your soul knows when something feels off. Because chosen ones don't trade destiny for convenience. You chose evolution over ease, growth over glitter, alignment over illusion. Their sweetest trap failed. And when they realized even happiness couldn't manipulate you, that was the moment they understood your armor wasn't just strong, it was incorruptible. Number 9, the moment they realized the hunter wasn't them. They thought you were the lab rat. You were building blueprints of the entire lab. By the final hours of their emergency summit, the truth hit them like a collapse in the ceiling. All this time, they believed they were observing you, dissecting you, tracking you. They thought their hidden network was 10 steps ahead. But every elder in that room felt the same silent punch to the gut when the evidence stacked up. You weren't the one being studied. You were the one studying them. Every attack they launched became your data stream. Every manipulation they tried became a confession. Every illusion they crafted exposed their tools. Every emotional trap revealed their structure. Imagine this. Someone throws rocks at you from the dark, and instead of hiding, you listen to the sound, the angle, the rhythm, until you can map the entire landscape they're hiding in. That's what you did. You used their assaults like sonar. Every hit echoed back information. Every strike lit up a new corridor in their system. You built a mental map of their hierarchy, their weaknesses, their rules, their triggers. They weren't wearing masks. You just learned how to see through them. And then came the moment nobody wanted to say out loud. The oldest elder, the one who usually speaks only once every decade, stood up with a face drained of color. "The armor isn't just for protection," he whispered. "They're preparing. Preparing for what? Preparing for the next phase. Preparing for a confrontation they can't predict. Preparing to liberate the ones still asleep. Preparing to tear down systems that thought they owned you. Preparing to step into power that no secret summit can regulate." And that was the moment they understood. They didn't accidentally create a threat. They accidentally activated one. Number 10. The revelation that turned their entire history to dust. They went looking for the source of your strength and found it waiting for them at the very beginning. When they traced your timeline, they expected to find a moment, a single crack in reality where your armor first formed, maybe 3 years ago, maybe during isolation, maybe after a traumatic event. Something clean, something measurable, something they could point to and say, "This is where it started." Instead, what they found made the room go silent. Your armor didn't begin 3 years ago. It didn't begin in adulthood. It didn't begin in pain, betrayal, or awakening. It began at birth. From your first breath, your life started collecting raw material, moments, emotions, lessons, wounds, losses, shocks, instincts. You weren't aware of it, but everything you went through was being stored like fragments of metal, waiting to be forged. Every challenge you faced wasn't a setback, it was inventory. Every heartbreak wasn't punishment, it was fuel. Every injustice you survived didn't break you. It stocked the shelves of your future armor. Imagine this, a blacksmith gathering metal scraps for decades without knowing why, until one day the furnace lights itself. That's what your life was. A long, quiet preparation for a moment nobody saw coming. Your pain wasn't random. It was raw material. They realized the betrayal they thought created your armor was never the beginning. It was simply the activation code, the spark thrown into a pile of explosive power that had been building since childhood. And here's the question rising in your chest. So all of this was always inside me? Yes. Your strength wasn't learned, it was revealed. Your resilience wasn't built overnight. It was the final click in a system that had been forming across timelines. When they saw this truth, the elders understood one thing. You weren't shaped by their attacks. You were awakened by them, and nothing terrifies them more than a destiny that started long before they even knew your name. Number 11. The evolution they never prepared for. They thought you were building armor. You were building a new species. Here's the part of the summit that broke whatever confidence they had left. Once they accepted that your armor started at birth, they asked a darker question. If you built armor unconsciously, what else have you been building without knowing? That's when their scans revealed something they're still refusing to say out loud. While you were collecting strength, you were also containing a force so powerful that without armor, it would have burned you from the inside out. Something forming, something growing, something waiting for the right moment to emerge. Imagine this, a star forming quietly inside a human chest, held back only by willpower and instinct. That's what they saw, and their ancient seer, the one who hasn't opened her eyes in over 1,000 years, screamed the moment she saw the future you're walking toward, not out of fear for you, but for everything around you. You weren't a threat, you were a convergence point, a crossroads where millions of timelines meet. Your armor wasn't shielding you from the world, it was shielding the world from your becoming. 3 days after the summit, their devices recorded your voice, cutting through silence. You acknowledged them. You thanked them for the pain. Then you delivered the sentence that activated protocols older than civilization. The armor is complete enough for Phase 2. Phase 1, individual sovereignty. Phase 2, mass activation. Not through teaching, through frequency, through existence. Imagine this. You evolve, and reality updates itself. Within hours, other armored souls began appearing like sparks catching a wildfire. Children are being born with partial armor already woven into their spiritual DNA. Humanity isn't dying, it's upgrading. And you were the prototype. You didn't defeat them. You outgrew their entire era. And chosen one, everything you heard today wasn't a story. It was a revelation of who you've become and what the universe is preparing you for. Phase 2 isn't coming. It's unfolding around you right now, and your evolution is rewriting the future in real time. If this message hit you in the places nobody sees, press the like button if you haven't already. And if you're not part of this family yet, make sure you hit subscribe. Your presence here strengthens the mission. Phase 2 has begun. Stay ready.